Shavua Tov, a gute Woche, and welcome to our program. This week on Thursday is Chof Beis Shvat. Chof Beis Shvat is the yahrtzeit of the Rebetzin. The Rebbe asks in a Sicha, Chof Beis Shvat Tovshin Nun Beis. The Rebbe asks the question that Chof Beis is 22. The Hebrew letters for 22 are Chof Beis, as we mentioned, and also the letters Becho, the same letters, Beis and Chof, and Becho is indicative of Becho Yevorech Yisrael, that the Jewish people are going to be blessed with you. So the Rebbe asks the question, how come it is that the yahrtzeit of the Rebetzin is on the 22nd day? The 22nd day stands for Becho Yevorech Yisrael, whereas we see it does not look like a blessing. It's a yahrtzeit. So how do we reconcile these two positions? We will return to that in a moment. But first, our customary story. And since this is the week before the yahrtzeit of the Rebetzin, we will dedicate this program to the Rebetzin and the stories about the Rebetzin. One of the stories that comes to mind is that my father, Olav Hasholem, in his last years in the United States, lived together with my sister, Rebetzin Leah Khan, on Montgomery between Albany and Troy. And my sister, Lozan Gesund, would talk often with the Rebetzin Chaim Mushke. So once it was late in the afternoon, and my sister was expecting our father to be home already, and he didn't come home yet, so she was worried. And as she's talking to the Rebetzin, she tells the Rebetzin that she's worried that her father didn't come home yet. The Rebetzin didn't ask any questions. She didn't ask any questions, when does he generally come and how late is he? She just concluded the conversation, and that was it. The conversation was over. About half hour or three quarters of an hour later, the Rebetzin calls my sister, and she says to her, "Mein Mann hat ihm gesehen zu Ma'ariv." My husband saw him to Ma'ariv. What happened here is very simple. The Rebetzin called this conversation short because she didn't want to antagonize our sister Leah by asking her questions. When does he generally come? How long is he late? So she got off the phone. She immediately called the Rebbe, and she told the Rebbe Leah is worried about her father. So the Rebbe answered her, "I saw him to Ma'ariv." Well, it's interesting that this is a story about the Rebetzin and the Rebbe together. Our family had a schus that we were in the Rebetzin's house several times. Whenever I would call her, she would always say yes, and she always would give me a date and so on. The signature sign for a special table was when the Rebetzin told the people they should put out on the table a set. It was a golden set it wasn't a dining room set, it was a tea set of a very dainty gold spoon, fork, and knife. And I heard from the people in the house that whenever the Rebetzin wanted a special table, this was the signature. This was the signature table. And Baruch Hashem, every time we were there, that golden set was on the table. On it was inscribed, very daintily and very nicely, two letters, SS. I once took the liberty, and I asked the Rebetzin, what is the SS on the spoon, the fork, and the knife? And she answered, the name for my Schwester, Shendel Schneerson. And when she said that, she choked up, which I knew you can't ask any more questions. The general question remains, how come the Rebetzin has it? So the answer, just as a suggested answer, is that the Rebetzin Shendel Schneerson and her husband, the Menachem Mendel Hodenstein, who was a grandson of the Rebbe Marash, the son of Rebetzin Chayamushka Hodenstein, lived in Paris, and they lived for many years in the same house, in the same apartment house as the Rebbe and the Rebetzin. Seems the year was 1938 or 1939, and there was already problems in Poland. Nevertheless, the Mendel's mother was not well, and the Mendel decided that he's going to go back to Poland to take care of his mother. And it seems that before Rebetzin Shendel and her husband, the Menachem Mendel Akain Hodenstein, left for Poland, they left this set with the Rebetzin. And this is why this set is so dear and sensitive to our Rebetzin. The Rebbe mentioned the fact that the Rebetzin's deposition was very helpful in the Netzochen of the Sforim, in the victory of the Sforim, of Hey Tevis. And the way we heard the story then was that they wanted to do a deposition of the Rebetzin, and the Rebetzin said to the Rebbe that she's a little bit afraid of the deposition. She doesn't know how it's going to come out. And the Rebbe said to her, you can do the deposition, you'll do very well. Lepel, she said the famous words, and this is not what I want to tell you because you know that my father and the Sforim belonged to Chassidim. But it's known that when she said those words, the lawyer for the other side threw the pencil on the table. In other words, he realized after this, it's over. That's one thing that happened. And the second thing that happened, that the main antagonist on the other side who attended the deposition, a chutzpah, whatever, but he came to the deposition, a few moments after that, he left the Rebetzin's house. As next week, Thursday, and it's close to Shabbos, is the yahrtzeit of the Rebetzin, we will continue with more stories about the Rebetzin im Yirtzeh Hashem next week. Concerning the question that we asked, Becho Yevorech Yisrael, Becho is a brocha. And the Rebbe asks the very, very obvious question. Almighty God chose for the yahrtzeit of the Rebetzin the 22nd day of the month. The 22nd day of the month stands for Becho Yevorech, for a blessing. And what we see is not exactly a blessing. What we see is a yahrtzeit. And how do we understand that? So the Rebbe answers, I must tell you, only our Rebbe can answer this. The Rebbe answers like this, that number one, the Rebbe says, as unser Dor, which we heard many times, is the letzte Dor von Golus und der erste Dor von Geula. Our generation is the last generation of exile and the first generation of Geula, of redemption. And like the previous Rebbe said, that wir schon ausgeputzt, wir haben schon verendigt und ausputzen die Knäppelach. We even polished our buttons for Mashiach. Says the Rebbe like this, Bemel ist verstandig. Als beintaim is given an Indian shel histalkus, that if meanwhile there was a matter of histalkus, the Rebetzin passed away, vidos is given bechov beishvat be'alba shonim lifnei zeh, as this was an odd bishvat 4 years ago, because the Rebbe said this in Tov Shin Beis, is das ach verak bechdei zu bringen die einzige Aliyah was is noch geblieben. That's only for one reason, to bring the only Aliyah that is still remains, the Aliyah from the Gulu Amitis Ve'ashlemo. The elevation of the Gulu Amitis Ve'ashlemo. So the Rebbe says that with her passing, the Rebetzin brought us closer to the greatest Aliyah, the greatest elevation of the Gulu Amitis Ve'ashlemo. So this is why this is the bracha of the Gulu Amitis Ve'ashlemo. As mentioned, only the Rebbe can say this. The Rebbe goes on in the same sikha to speak about the greatness of the Rebetzin, and what the Medrash says Actually, a Gemara also in Seite Yud Aleph and in a Medrash. B'schat noshim tzidkoniyeh shehoyu beis yadei nigalu Yisrael miMitzrayim. It was in the merit of the righteous women in that generation that we went out of Mitzrayim. And the Rebbe brings it says in from of Kabbalah that the women in our generation are an incarnation of the women of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and therefore, just like by Yetzias Mitzrayim, we were redeemed in honor, in merit of the women of the Noshim Tzidkonias, so now we are going to be redeemed in the merit of the Noshim Tzidkonias. That's what the Rebbe says very, very clearly. What are the Noshim Tzidkonias going to do? They are the answer to the question that the Rebbe Nishma Seiden asks in his first Maimer in Samach Vov. In the first Maimer in Samach Vov, the Rebbe Nishma Seiden asks the great question: why did Almighty God need this world? And the question becomes stronger and stronger from day to day. Today you don't even have to explain the question. Look at this world with all the terrorism that is happening all over. Terrorism, war, whatever you want. And one can ask, who am I to ask? I'm only a simple human being, but this is what you needed? This is the kind of world you needed? Please, Almighty God, I would expect you to do better than this. No. What's the answer? And the Rebbe Nishma Seiden brings the answer. He brings a medrash. Nisave HaKadosh Baruch Hu li yis lei dira b'tachtenim. Almighty God wanted a habitation for himself in this world. And the Rebbe Rebetzin brings other answers, and he says this is the only answer that stands. Because this answer you can't question. Because it brings from the Alter Rebbe, Nisave means a taive. It was a craving, it was a longing. Av a taive frek menik in kasha. On the longing you don't ask any question. This is what Almighty God liked. So what did he want? What did he like? Dira leibat achtenim. He wanted a habitation for himself in this world. Sometimes you will ask somebody, where does it say? Where does it say in the Saveh HaKadosh Baruch Hu li yis lei dira b'tachtenim? He's going to say, it's probably a zehar, on Eitz Chaim. The Rebbe say it's not a zehar, and it's not an Eitz Chaim. It's a medrash. The Rebbe Nishma Seiden brings the medrash. Nisaveh HaKadosh Baruch Hu li yis lei dira b'tachtenim. Almighty God wanted a habitation for himself, but tachtenim. And the Rebbe explains, tachtenim means in the very lower, because if you're going to find a world that's lower than this, then this is not called tachtenim. Tachtenim means a lower, ain't tachten imenu. There is nothing lower. And indeed, this is the case. In this world, there's nothing lower than this. In this world, this is where Almighty God wanted his habitation. And they don't ask any questions of Hatayvet. This was his longing. Now, meanwhile, what do we see? What did he want? Diro. He wanted a diro. Diro means a habitation, a resting spot, whichever way you're going to say, a house, a place. And it said all over that it's no lefon of a mitzvah, that you should do mitzvahs in a nice way, and you should do in a way that is no'eh, that is nice. That if you build something for Almighty God, it should be diro no'eh. It should be a nice diro. And it should be esrig noeh. Everything should be nice, the word noeh. So the Rebbe explains that there is a difference, that here is the role of the mother, of the wife, that she plays in the diro noeh. Because after that you want kelim noim. The Gemara says that there are three things that are marchiv daite shalodom, that broaden the mind of a person. One of them is isha noeh. One of them is dira no'o, a nice habitation, a nice house, and the one is kelim noim, nice vessels, nice furniture, and so on. So the Rebbe explains that there's a common denominator in the word no'e, from isha no'o to dira no'o to kelim no'im. The husband is the one who worries about the house. However, he doesn't worry about the details of the house. Who transforms the house into a home, and who transforms the diro into a diro? No, the isha no. That's what the Rebbe says in this sikh. So therefore, this is the role of the Jewish wife and the Jewish woman, that she takes the house that the husband gives her. However, she transforms that house into a diro no'o. That is the role of the Jewish wife and the Jewish mother. And this is what the Rebetzin stood for. And as mentioned before, our forefathers went out of Mitzrayim in the merit of Noshim Tzidkonius, and it says in Sforim of Kabbalah that the Noshim Tzidkonius of this generation are a Gilgul, an incarnation of the Noshim Tzidkonius of the day of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So it's as simple as 1 and 1 is 2. That we are going to go out of Golus B'schus of the Noshim Tzidkonius of this generation. And in their merit, all of us in Yirtzeit Hashem will go out in Golus. And this is what the Rebbe says in this Sikha concerning the Rebetzin. B'meila, we have a little job. And Baruch Hashem, Neshei of Yisrael have done it throughout the world. But maybe there are still some pachim ktanim, small vessels. Very small. There are still left. And we'll leave it up to Bnei Yisrael and the Shei Yisrael that they will take care of also the Pachim Ktanim, and they will prepare their husband and their children and their sons and grandchildren and grandchildren and great grandchildren for the Geula Hamitis V'Ashlemo, for that great moment when all of us in their merit will go out of Golus. Ubagolo didan uvesimcha uvtuv livov uveteva nila ve'anigle ulamata me'asal atfochim uvechesed uverachamim v'tekev umiyad mamesh.